Hello guys, so I want to try something different for this video. The last couple of videos I've been uploading have been me reading the article, which is cool I guess because I can deliver the whole message and I can go really in depth without skipping any details, right? I think the articles are very good. However, it might also sound a little bit robotic. So what I'm going to try to do in this video, and if it's something that I enjoy, I will keep doing, is to write the article, publish the article online, and then just verbally share with you, talk to you what I'm trying to explain in the article. So perhaps if you want to have the full experience and go in depth as I try to be, then I recommend you to go to my website ivanberesin.com and find the article. Today I'm going to be telling you about my latest article, which is How to and How Not to Love, analyzing Rapunzel. And basically what I did, this article is an analysis of Rapunzel and the lessons it teaches us, that story teaches us about love. Let me start by sharing with you the idea behind this first of all. So what is the idea behind this? The idea behind this is that all of these stories I've been sharing with you, right? The sailor who fell from grace with the sea, the stories from the Bible, and now, well, fairy tales and Rapunzel are stories which are considered great or legendary because they truly speak to the human experience. I write this quote at the beginning of my article, which goes something like this: fairy tales offer the clearest, most concise look into the collective human psyche. And I'm paraphrasing, but the idea behind that is that stories which are interesting to humans are interesting to us for a reason. And that reason is that they really speak to us. They speak to who we are, to who we could be, and to the experiences we have. There are many experiences which all humans share. All humans share thirst, hunger, having parents, being born, dying, having people close to us leaving, disappearing, or also making friends. These are experiences that all humans share. And so the stories which are the most popular and which stay with us for the longest time are the ones that speak the most to us, the ones that speak most honestly to us. And well, most of the stories in the Bible are an example of that. Most of the myths and of the fables, for example, are also examples of that, right? Aesop's fables, Nordic mythology, the things that remain with us, and the ones, especially the ones that are most widespread, are usually because they talk to us the most and they reveal things about the human experience the most. As if you remember the video before this one, or the article before this one about wrestling with God, all these stories about Abraham, Moses, Jacob show us how it's okay to find a balance between our different desires. So that's the premise basically of this article. Fairy tales are examples of stories which have remained with humanity for a long time and which reveal things about us. And the reason why they reveal things about us has to do with the way that they have stuck with us. And what I mean by that is that these are stories that began as oral stories. They were transmitted orally. They weren't written down. Somebody came up with it, or maybe a group came up with it, and then they would tell it to their children, and their children will tell it to their friends, and then their friends will tell it to their parents, and then their parents will tell it to their brothers, and then their brothers will tell them to their other children's. And this is a process that took hundreds of years until the Grimm brothers finally wrote them down. The Grimm brothers were from from Germany, and they wrote many of the fairy tales around that area down. And what we get is the story which remained after being chopped in pieces and slightly altered for hundreds and hundreds and years. And so the story that remains, or the aspects, the elements of the story that remain, are those which are most important to humans, most relevant to humans, and most important to getting the point across. What do I mean by this? Let me give you an example. Let's suppose I was driving down the street the other day, and a guy came on a motorcycle and showed me a pistol, and he said, "Give me your money or I will kill you." If I want to tell this story to someone who lived in the 1500s, or maybe they already had guns back then, they didn't have cars for sure. Let's go further. In the 1000s, right, where people didn't have guns and didn't have cars, I could say something like, "Oh yes, I was walking down the street and somebody with a weapon threatened me and wanted to steal my gold." And then that person, when telling it again to one of his friends, he might think, "Oh, weapons, what weapons do we use? Well, we use knives and spears." So when he tells the story, he will say, "Yes, of course, there was this guy who was walking down the street, and somebody approached him with a spear and told him, 'Give me your money or I will kill you.'" Right? And you can see how the principles of the idea stay the same, but the details change in order to fit the context and the understanding of both the people telling it and receiving it. Okay, awesome. So now that is clear, I want to tell you Rapunzel's story. I want to tell you Rapunzel's story so you remember it, and then I can go on and explain you the different symbols and the different teachings the story gives us. And the story goes like this. There once was a couple who were deeply in love, and they had tried to have a child for a very, very, very long time, to no avail. They tried and tried and tried, but no baby came their way. And so the wife got very, very, very sad, and one day, while looking out the window, she saw into the walled garden of the witch that lived next door. And inside the garden, she saw this flower called a Rapunzel, by the way, which was so beautiful, and she got very sad because she thought to herself, "Oh my God, if I am not to have one of those flowers, then I will perish and suffer all my life." And when the husband saw her, he said, "Wife, what is going on? I hate to see you like this." And she said, "Oh, it's just those flowers are so beautiful, and I want to have one for myself." And the husband said, "I cannot see my wife suffer like this." And so he jumped over the walls of the garden and picked up one of these flowers and brought it home. And the wife felt a little bit better, but the next day it was the same thing. "Please, please bring me one of those Rapunzels." And so the husband did this a couple of times until finally the wife caught him. And she said, "What are you doing, stealing from my garden?" And the husband said, "Please, let mercy overrule justice. I am bringing these flowers for my wife. She is in a lot of pain, and this is the only thing which is making her feel better." And the witch said, "Okay, you can keep the flower under one condition. I will take your firstborn child." And the husband said, "Okay, let's do that." He probably didn't even think they were going to have a child, but then they did. And when they did have a child, the witch went and took it away and named it Rapunzel. And she said, "I will take care of it like a mother." And so the witch raised Rapunzel, and when Rapunzel was 12 years old, keep that detail in mind, when Rapunzel was 12 years old, she put Rapunzel in the top of a tower which had no doors or no way of leaving except for a window on the very top. And when the witch wanted to enter or leave the tower, she would ask Rapunzel to drop her hair, and she would climb down or up. She would say, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, drop down your hair, or let your hair drop." And Rapunzel would do it. And one day, there was this prince riding on a horse, and he heard this beautiful singing. So he approached, and he noticed the singing was coming from the top of a tower. And he said, "That is the most beautiful sound I've ever heard in my entire life. I have to meet the person behind that singing. And he was spying. He was like from the looking at the tower from the bushes, trying to understand what is going on. And eventually, he saw the witch saying, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let your hair drop," and climbing up the tower. When the witch, after a while, when the witch left the tower, the prince went to the base of the tower and said, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let your hair drop." And he climbed to the top of the tower, where he met Rapunzel, and Rapunzel was very, very scared at first. But then he started talking to her in a friendly manner, and he said how her voice was the most beautiful thing he had ever heard, and Rapunzel started to like the prince. So the prince asked Rapunzel to marry him, and she said yes. But she said that she was not allowed to leave the tower. So what they would do is she asked the prince to bring a strand of string every single time he came to visit her, and one day they would create like a rope so that they could both escape. And they saw each other every single afternoon until one day, when the witch was going up the tower, Rapunzel said, "Why is it that you are so much heavier to lift than the than the prince?" And the witch got furious. She was like, "Rapunzel, I can't believe it. I have tried so hard to keep you away from the evil world." Let me make sure the camera is actually recording. Okay, yes, it is recording. Sorry about that. "I have tried so hard to keep you away from the evil world, and still you have tricked me this way. Unbelievable." And so the witch grabbed Rapunzel by the head, and cut off her hair, and then she took her out of the tower and dropped her somewhere in the forest where no one would ever see her again. And later the prince came to the tower and he said, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, drop down your hair." And the witch and hair was dropped, right? And so the prince climbed up the tower, and it was actually the witch using Rapunzel's hair to lift the prince up. And the witch said, "Ah, you monster, now you will never see Rapunzel again. I made sure of it." And so in his despair, the prince jumped out of the tower and fell in a bush of spines. And he got spines in his eyes and he became blinded. And he was very sad and disappointed, and he started walking and dwelling in the forest, until one day he heard some singing and he recognized that beautiful voice. And he approached and he said, "Rapunzel," and Rapunzel said, "Yes, it's me." And they hugged, and Rapunzel cried. And when Rapunzel's tears fell on the prince's eyes, he recovered his vision, and he noticed how Rapunzel was not alone, but she had also given birth to 2 twins. And then they all rode towards the prince's castle, and they lived happily ever after. And when I first got the idea of making this article, I was like, this is a story about a narcissistic mother. And Disney's or Pixar's Tangled does a very good job at portraying that role of the narcissistic mother. However, when I read the original, right, the Grimm's Brothers version, I noticed it was actually a love story, and a story which shows us how to love and how not to love. And the reason why this is a love story is because it's a story that starts with a couple, continues with another couple, and ends with another couple. It starts with a couple who is in love, but who have lots of flaws and are in a lot of pain and suffering. It continues with a couple which is toxic, and it ends with a couple which is loving and healthy. And there are lots of things we can learn from these 3 relationships. From the first relationship, we can learn that, well, love is something very beautiful, which creates a community and a bond. It is also important for each of the members involved to work on themselves and find out ways to be happy. Because if I cannot work on myself, for example, and be happy, or if my partner cannot work on herself and be happy, then it will be me trying to make her happy and her trying to make me happy. And the problem with that is that it will create this relationship dynamic in which one is the caretaker and the other one is the person in need. And this will not allow for any of the people involved to grow, since they will be stuck in this situation of trying to make sure the other person is not suffering. The second type of relationship is the relationship that Rapunzel and the witch had, which is a typical relationship between a narcissistic mother and a daughter. So let me explain how we know that Frau Gothel, that's the name of the witch, how we know that she is narcissistic. One of the main clues about this can be found in the fact that she placed Rapunzel in the top of a tower. Now, why would she put Rapunzel in the top of a tower and not in a hole on the ground or just lock her in the room of a house? And the answer to this is that she wanted Rapunzel to be seen. And also she wanted Rapunzel to be able to see the world, right? Rapunzel is on a place, she's on the highest place, so everybody that's below her can see her, and she can see everything else. So everybody can admire the beauty which belongs to the witch, just like she used to have a walled garden, which walls were low enough for other people to be able to see into it. And she wants to display Rapunzel. She wants everyone to see how honorable the witch is for having such a beautiful possession, but also she wants Rapunzel to be stuck with her forever, and so the witch will bring gifts from the world, and she would tell Rapunzel about her adventures, and she would be stuck on the top of the tower. And there are some very interesting things you might notice from what I'm telling you, and from what I told you. The first one is that Rapunzel was brought to the tower when she was 12, when she became 12 years old. How is this important? Well, 12 years old is when puberty starts for teenage girls. And so what this means is that now that Rapunzel might have an interest for other boys, for example, and to start her own family, is when the witch has to be more careful about her not escaping. In my article, I exemplify this situation with a more modern example, which would be a mother who is overprotective of her daughter, and she never lets her go out with her friends and go out to parties and go out to events. However, the mother always goes out with her friends and always goes out to parties, and she is always posting pictures and telling her daughter about how much fun she had, all while telling her that she is not allowed to go anywhere. And also, the only times when when the daughter does go to parties or events is when it's a familiar event in which the daughter is invited, and in which the mother will decide what the daughter wears, or what the daughter's makeup will be, who she is allowed to talk to, etc. And this is an attempt to keep the daughter home for two different reasons. One of them is for the validation that having a daughter gives the mother. So the daughter will appreciate the mother's efforts of taking care of her, or she would appreciate the fact that the mother gives her gifts, and she would validate the mother by saying things like, "Mother, thank you very much, I love you so much," and this will make the mother feel safe and like a good person, even though she knows she isn't, because narcissistic people are usually those which are the most insecure and which lack the most amount of self-love. And there's another second reason, which is that having the daughter at home will actually make life easier for the mother. How is this so? Well, by having the daughter at home, the daughter can take care of the dishes, she can take care of the smaller siblings, she can take out the trash, all while the mother is going out and having fun with her friends and by herself. So that is very interesting. And so we see in Rapunzel this situation where Rapunzel is getting the short end of the stick, while her mother is going out into the world and having fun and having all of these adventures. She is stuck somewhere where she can see everything that she is missing and she cannot do anything about it. And well, everything changes when Rapunzel meets the prince, and the prince is someone who is adventurous, who is safe, right? He can ride on the forest by himself. He's not scared of anything happening to him. He is romantic, he is friendly, and Rapunzel thinks to herself, on the Grimm's version, she thinks to herself, oh, the prince would much rather have me than Frau Gothel. And what I think is meant by this is that she can notice how the prince truly wants her and is truly attracted for her and truly cares for her as a person, unlike Frau Gothel, which only cares for Rapunzel in so long as she provides security, love, and safety to her. So it's a conditional love instead of just a raw, powerful attraction. And well, they get married, and something very interesting happens, which is that Rapunzel has her hair cut, she's taken into the forest, and then the prince loses his vision, he loses his eyesight. And this is a test of love. This is a moment where we get to see if the prince really loves Rapunzel or if he just found her superficially attractive, like the witch found Rapunzel superficially worthy of love. And when the prince hears Rapunzel singing, he goes, oh my god, this is my wife, I love her so much. And then Rapunzel cries into the prince's eyes and he recovers his vision. And what this means is that the love, the healthy love that a relationship should have, is one of these which helps you regain your vision rather than lose it. It's one which gives meaning to your life, which gives a sense to your life, and which pushes you to be better and do better and be happy, and in which both parties get benefited. It's not, oh, I'm suffering so you can be better, or oh, you're suffering so I can be better off. It's, hey, we're both adding to each other's lives and we're both going to enjoy life more thanks to this relationship. And so the prince recovers his vision, which means, oh, okay, my family isn't dead, everything I loved isn't dead. We can be happy together again, and we can go to the castle and do what we're supposed to do. And so these are the lessons we get from Rapunzel, right? It's how love can take us to flawed situations, and it's important to work on yourself. How love can take us to horrible, toxic situations in which people are just being taken advantage of. And finally, how love can create something which transcends the individual and creates a system in which I add to you and you add to me, and then we add to our children and we add to the community. And this love, although it requires you to be vulnerable and open, and it might make you suffer, it is also the path in which you will be able to transcend your individuality and participate in a societal or communal system and relationship. And so with all of that, that's all I have to say basically for this episode of Rapunzel. If you want to, again, I will say this at the beginning of every video, I did like this format, but if you want a more to the point, concise and in-depth analysis, go to the written article that has more of an order and I don't get lost as much, so you might find it easier to read and you might get more out of it. And yeah, that's it. If this article inspired you to become a better person and get into more loving, healthy relationships, make sure to send me a message so I can give you a free coaching consultation. And yeah, thanks for watching. Please share with your friends, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.